Hello everyone, my name is Dom Cadino. This is my presentation and it's going to be on crisis management in the workplace. The sources I'm going to be drawing from are shrm.org, managersresourcehandbook.com, as well as bridgehtpath.com. First off, what is a crisis? A crisis is a difficult or troublesome situation that can lead to problematic scenarios, which in turn can possibly bring up difficult decisions that must be made. I included this image because not only is it funny, but it accurately depicts some of the important decisions that companies and employers are faced with during this coronavirus pandemic. What is crisis management? Well, crisis management is the way in which an organization handles negative events that could potentially harm an entity. This entity can either be the organization itself, the stakeholders of the company, or even the general public. So in other words, crisis management is the overall response a company has when facing hardships or problems. Next, I will discuss why communication during a crisis is so important. In order for the management team and higher-ups in a company to do their jobs best, they need to have effective and productive communication. If a company cannot properly and clearly communicate changes, needs, and expectations to the members of a company, then they cannot prepare themselves to handle the unforeseen challenges that may come their way. Communication within the workplace is important due to the need of all parties to be on the same page about what is expected of them, for them to do their jobs well, and to have everything go as smoothly as possible. For specific crises and situations such as natural disasters, or like we saw years ago with the tsunami in Japan, effective, clear, and concise communication can truly be the difference between life and death. In other words, a company's ability to communicate effectively with their employees holds great weight, because their communication or lack thereof goes way beyond just the success of their company. Their communication has long-lasting impacts on everyone involved. Therefore, it is important for companies to communicate as well as possible in the way that best meets the needs of their employees. Next, why crisis management is vital. First off, nature is unpredictable and unmatched. This means that we never know when an earthquake will strike, we never know when a tsunami might hit again, and this means that companies always need to be prepared and always need to have a contingency plan ready for when crisis may strike. Also, this can be the saving grace for a company to avoid bankruptcy. This example can be brought up or seen from a peanut butter company back in 2013 when they were shut down because of salmonella being apparent in their product, where they were aware of the salmonella that was in the peanut butter, but they did not have a crisis management team to save them from that, so they were actually forced to go into bankruptcy and ended up shutting down. Lastly, crisis management is vital for the empowerment of the overall company. I say this because employees are always looking up and banking on the success of the company because that's where their paycheck is coming from. So if the company goes down in the sink and goes down because of a crisis, then that means the employees have no way of income, and that affects their families and everything else. So crisis management is extremely important for every aspect of a company and the longevity of a company as well. Furthermore, I've listed some to-dos for effective crisis management. First off, you need to establish a core team. These are going to be your specialist people, these are going to be your decision makers and your group leaders. Secondly, you want to identify a support team. These are going to be your subgroups under each functional leader that you have in your core team. Thirdly, you want to create task isolation or delegate tasks. This is so that you're not having to have one person dealing with everything and having to overwhelm a certain individual in the company. Furthermore, Establish effective external communication as soon as possible. This means that you need to be able to communicate with the people below and above. That means vertical communication, being able to see and delegate, and that goes into being able to delegate tasks efficiently and effectively. Once a company has established a reliable and effective line of communication, they can then move to identify as well as maintain priorities. This will allow the company and all of its members to be as effective and productive as possible throughout the crisis it's facing. Also, the company can then try to implement disciplined problem-solving methods, which will create much needed structure around each and every problem that the company faces, as well as guide everyone in the group towards the solution at hand. This then leads to the last and final of the to-dos list, which is focus on the best solution and not the fastest, which can be pretty self-explanatory, but this can also take a lot of time and effort in being able to truly find the best and most effective solution for that company in the crisis that it's facing. One example of crisis management can be seen on the website shrm.org, where they specify the response of Cisco systems on two separate occasions when faced with a crisis. The first of which were terrorist bombs that ripped through a metro station and airport in Brussels in March of 2016. Leaders of Cisco Systems were able to account for the company's 150 plus employees in the area within 24 hours. Thankfully, all of them were safe. But 5 years earlier, and some 6,000 miles away, Cisco had faced another disaster that tested its communication efforts, when a magnitude 9.0 earthquake and subsequent tsunami struck Japan in 2011. Cisco personnel struggled to reach 1,400 employees within a timely manner with timely information. Despite the technology company's commitment to employee safety, it took more than a week for the HR staff to locate all of its area employees and make sure that they were all safe. So, when looking back on the two separate occasions, one can tell that Cisco Systems had taken what they had learned and lessons that they had learned from the first crisis they had faced, which was the Japan earthquake and tsunami, and took precautionary measures in finding ways to better locate and better communicate with their employees and staff when facing a crisis. The coronavirus, like most crises, came without warning. With social distancing measures and stay-at-home orders, all members in active parts of a business were faced with different hardships. Some businesses had to learn how to alter their company to fully function online. Others had to decide which employees were considered essential and which employees needed to be furloughed in order to keep as many people safe while preventing a total shutdown of a company that would lead to a complete loss of business. On the other hand, as employees changing work hours, getting released from work as non-essential staff, and learning how to stay at home without going mad created many other trials and tribulations for employees who looked to their management for guidance. However, South Korea is one country that has jump-started their work in order to implement changes and technological advances to prevent and prepare for any future pandemic efforts. While every crisis poses a variety of challenges, the ways and solutions that companies and their management teams create to address the crisis strengthens the company and everyone the company affects. If a company does this well, they can come out of a crisis stronger and more successful than ever, and with a trusting and loyal team behind them. Most importantly, the cycle opens up the door for positive impacts to reverberate around the world.